Oh boy, the first day of camp. I don't know about this. What's the matter? This is gonna be great. Sunshine, water, and if this place is up to snuff, burritos. All I'm hearing is skin cancer, dysentery, and if you keep eating those burritos, an impacted colon. Worrywart. Come on, it's summer camp. I'm sure you've got nothing to worry about. I'm just gonna find a nice tree and read my book on the world. I'm about to reach the section on Montecito. Montecito, hey? Now that's a place that seems like it has nice burritos.
Hello?
It's not over.
You are our last chance. How do we end this?
You have to go back to 1978. The first day of camp.
All right, so we're back with part 2 of this Fear Street trilogy, and I gotta say, like you've heard it in the last episode, these things get progressively better. And I think we feel all the same way about this one. That like this one is, you know, the next step, and I think a lot of that for me is because this feels like a complete whole idea. Mostly because it's instead of like, because the other one and the third one kind of rip offs or jumps through multiple like different franchises, let's just say that. This one is strictly a Friday the 13th movie, but made for the modern day, you know? And for me, I like that consistency. I really do. That said, I do have some problems, and the problems that I have here, I have the same with the new Halloween movie, but I'll get to that in a second. Who wants to tell their thoughts? Like, what are you... Who's thinking things?
Go ahead, Sam.
Go ahead, Ish.
Okay.
He said he got to finish his popcorn.
Right, I'm saying. I was pretty okay with this movie, and the only thing that really tainted it was the fact that I had to watch the first movie first. Honestly. I mean, I guess that was the big thing. Like, there was annoyances, but this one felt more like, in the first one, it felt like the characters were taking themselves too seriously, and in this one, it felt like everybody took themselves the amount of serious that they needed to. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because it was a little goofy. You know what I mean? It was a little strange, but it wasn't as forcefully booty as the first one.
Right.
The story in it, the progression, like through finding the caverns and all that other stuff, that was pretty dope. I actually did like that. The opening up of this whole, not universe, but I guess this town, or these two towns.
The lore, pretty much.
Yeah, the lore of it. Like, I am a lore person, as you know. I love like wikis and everything like that for shows. I read like the whole thing before I actually finish the damn show. And this one felt like it was opening up a lot of the doors that I would be opening if I was, you know, looking up a show that I liked, except for it was a movie that I didn't like. But that being said, again, same thing. Good sound, good visuals. Kill scenes are pretty cool. I did actually enjoy slightly this movie. Like, if the last one was a D- to a C-, this might have started at C.
All right, so, hold on. Don't talk about your grade yet. Don't talk about your grade yet. Sammy, what'd you think?
You know, I really like the.
Hold on. Don't make sure you don't choke now. Get them kernels out.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Do I have anything in my teeth? Am I good?
Nah, you good. You good. Okay. I mean, you put on a shirt, but you good. This man.
Oh, come on.
2 whole movies, no shirt. Go ahead.
Come on, man. Stop it. Anyway, yeah.
I think that's true.
Hey, I'm trying to speak. All right, the camp scene, man. The camp scene. Wow, we've seen this many times, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously,
Jason movies out there.
Jesus Christ. So I already wasn't excited when it started. You know, trope after trope after trope. But like you said, Ish, the caverns, like that was an interesting quick take on it. Like, all right, these characters get to explore a little bit. They're kind of actually doing the dirty work on trying to solve this mystery. You know, they had that one character who wouldn't believe in anything supernatural if it was staring at her in the face. I'm like, girl, just just work with the team. Come on, there's obviously something going on. Teenagers. Why is everybody fucking and doing drugs like it is just regular shit to do, you know? I'm like, this is wild, but it is what it is. A little extreme for my liking. I was like, all right, they're kind of exaggerating the whole.
Hey, Sam,
you gotta make it
what the shade at? What the shade at, man? What the shade at? What the shade?
On the white folk.
Yeah. Them white people. Yeah.
The white folk, that's what they do though. But you know,
you know what I mean?
Like that. I don't like that. Like Jesus, I'm like, it's just very stereotypical. That's all I'm saying. You know, I was like, okay. I was hoping for better.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yo, this little the creature they discover. I don't know if I don't want to spoil anything.
No, that's a spoiler podcast. It's fine. It's spoiler. You talking about the hamburger helper they find in the middle of the cave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, that was kind of threw me off a little bit too.
That excited me. That's when I was like, oh, this jumping.
Right. Because I was really curious. I was really confused and curious. I was like, wow, this is interesting. I want to know more about this monstrous Jello spoiled peanut butter moldy shit, whatever it is. So them discovering that and how it affected our characters was wild to me. So it just kind of got me involved into the mystery. Like, made me more excited and curious about the story as a whole. Made me feel a lot better after watching the first one, because the first one was like it said trash. The second one was like, all right, this is at least better than the first one.
It's pretty good progression.
Yeah,
from the first storylines too. Like,
hell yeah, and I like the killer. I was like, let's compare killers throughout these movies, guys. But like compared to the Scream guy in the firit one, this ass guy wasn't having it. He was actually intimidating as fuck. Like the Scream guy, trip your ass up, kick your head, keep it moving.
Well,
but this axe wouldn't do him though. Oof.
He's doing cardio. He's the only one who was running. Like,
well, and I wanna talk to you about that, because I have a pretty much a sort of a thought, almost a rule about things like that. And it goes mini monster bad, one monster good. You know, like when you have like what makes Alien scary? That one monster in this tight and closed space killing all these people. What makes Aliens not scary? A whole bunch of monsters with a whole bunch of people with guns make it kind of not scary. So when you have this, like, and that's one of the things that I think I liked about this movie, is that it's one killer. It follows the Friday the 13th formula. There's one killer in this enclosed camp. I mean, they're kids, they can't drive or anything, so they can't really get away, you know, unless they end up just running and just trip all the fat kids. Like this, it honestly, the self-containedness helped it a lot. Whereas in the other one, you already have the fact of these monsters they're all chasing them. So you kind of, that suspension of disbelief is kind of gone, because they should already catch these kids. And then you add to the fact of they won't hurt them really. And then to the fact that they keep regenerating. It's like, well, this is just an impossible situation that you guys have started, and they solve it in a kind of lackadaisical way. But here it's not that, you know. Here it's very different. Now again, they kind of do it the same way, the same lackadaisical way that they got, and I really don't get it. I think the ending is probably one of my biggest gripes about this film. But up until that,
wait, who did I think I watched this at the same time as Sam. And at the end, whenever she crossed her eyes, was the funniest scene I've ever seen in my life.
Like her death scene?
They almost got me. I was like, oh, this might actually be an okay. And I was like, oh, she just, that's so Raven, and then that's it. I'm done. This is it. I can't do it.
They had us in the first half, Coach.
Oh, they had us in the first hour and 59 minutes, and then that last I was like, what the fuck is this? And then she ends up back in time, and I was like, oh yeah, there's another movie.
Oh, we gotta do this again. But no, please continue what you were saying, Sam, if I didn't throw you off track too much.
Yeah, I was going on about the killer. Definitely Jason vibes. I even like his little mini origin story of how he got his little hooded mask. I'm like, oh, it's a mask, oh shit. And he looked creepy. I was like, oh man, okay, I'm with it. So that I was entertained. He was just like I said in the previous review, these kill shots, the camera just really stays on him. Like you just watch this man hack this guy's head with an axe like repeatedly, and it doesn't. You just seeing this man turn into like watermelon juice. It's like, yo, what the fuck? Okay.
Yeah, is that the one? He was dead and he just kept on. He just kept going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, what are you? Hey, bro, he's done.
Yeah, he didn't do that to nobody else, but this one person, he was real mad at them. He hated them. That was some leftover aggression from before the possession. Like that's how mad he felt. But
y'all think it's an exaggeration, but if you see this movie, y'all watch that scene and you will feel uncomfortable because it's a little too long. You get to 2 and you're like, oh, well, he's done. You get to 3 and you're like, this might be excessive. And you get to like 4 or 5 and it's like maybe this is the first movie.
So speaking of kills, that's kind of one of my big problems with this film, and like I said, it's the same problem I had with the new Halloween film, is that if you're copying the sort of aesthetics of these older slasher films, there's sort of a principle, a sort of untold principle that if you watch, you kind of realize. And it's kind of spoken about in the Save the Cat books. It's something I've been reading lately, especially with the monster in the house genre. And that is that the people that are in the film that are being chased by the monster have committed a sin, and the monster itself is chasing or enacting vengeance or justice upon those who have committed the sin. And the only ones who are spared have either not committed the sin or realized they committed the sin and sort of repented, So like taking in the first Halloween movie, it's the monster is after Laurie and kills anyone who tempts Laurie into, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Infidelity or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, premarital sex, let's call it, right? And kills all of them, but she survives in the end because she's the pure maiden, right? And the same thing could be said for Nightmare on Elm Street and the Friday the 13th. Here it just seems like a gore fest for gore fest's sake. You know what I mean? And it's better in my opinion when you can when the monster can kill you but doesn't, instead of can kill you and goes overboard, because then it's not kill, it's spectacle.
It does. It takes you out of it.
Yeah,
I go back to that kill again. That the one that went on for a little bit too long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it does. It takes you out of it.
And also, I have a question. This kind of is related. Why do you think the killer killed this one innocent character? You guys remember this?
Yeah.
Like,
wait, who was it again?
This little fat little white kid.
That just he
like,
did that to everyone.
Yeah. That was a little weird, right? Because he's supposed to just leave him alone.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's weird. They I don't know if they explained in the third one or the second one. Oh, actually, you go ahead first. Let me before.
Yo, because what I thought in watching that movie alone, I was like, oh, so only shady siders gets fucked up, right?
Yes.
Did that translate to the third one?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It did. So the way that it works, right? Well, you know what? I'll save that for the third one because
we'll save that for the third.
I'm pretty sure that's where they unveil everything. For this one, that little kid, it didn't seem like he needed to die, but if you think about what they were trying to build story-wise, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And that does kind of peeve me a little bit, but it does kind of make sense because it follows the narrative of the killer killing people. That's what it is. Every couple years, every generation, a killer kills a bunch of people in Shadyside. And Sunnyvale gets better.
Yeah, they prosper.
Yeah, that's every single time. Even in this, and that again, lore. I'm sorry for a bit of a tangent. Lore again. They do delve more into the rivalry between Sunnyvale and Shadyside.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, obvious naming, of course, but even in the first one, they kind of get into a little bit of a kerfuffle over a football game. You know what I mean? And from that's one of the main points is her moving to Sunnyvale.
Samantha, yeah.
I'm gonna keep messing these up. But in this one, you see at the camp is made of Sunnyvale kids and Shadyside kids, and they hate each other. And the shady side kids are kind of moody and don't want to cheer or participate in these stupid activities. And they're all like unathletic and not. And then the Sunnyvale people are like the people who the CW puts into high school shows.
Well, unless one of the Shady Siders need to be a CW character in order to sleep with one of the Sunnyvales.
Yes. Yes.
That's definitely Then it's
they're
completely
just
different.
weird. Then they're just weird.
Yeah.
Which there's quotes over that. People. There's quotes over that. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You got any more, Sam?
What's something? No, I'm trying. You guys are good. I know.
He's like,
Went off.
I got. No, I like this popcorn. I'm gonna keep eating.
Nah.
I got all screen. I gotta feed my muscles. This is for lefty. This is for righty.
Wait, are those his names or your names for him?
That's his names for him. He got that. He ain't trying to go special. He's just like, this lefty muscle, this righty muscle. This.
Oh my goodness. But to go on about this one movie, we had our innocent character, the virgin, you know, who was pretty much against all the supernatural stuff and becomes like, hey, she might be the hero and she's coming, she's knowing what's going on, so she's getting hip and she's actually a badass. Holy shit. And that ending death scene of those two sisters was hilarious to me, bro. I know it just had to be laughing. Dude. But I'm like, yo, how many times you gonna chop her in the chest? And she's like,
it was so long. And I was like, what? It started out as and then it was like, and it was like,
that was one of the problems that I had with that final. Honestly, if this was any other movie, they would have gotten away. They would have been the final girls, obviously. But here, because of plot wise, lore wise, they of course had to stay with. I don't know, man. If they had done it any other way, it probably would have came off better. But Jesus, that was kind of ham-fisted.
A little much. I think you said it earlier. It was like violence for violence sake, or gore for gore's sake.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't seem like it was super necessary.
It really, in my opinion,
after the third hit, it was like, all right, okay, it's all right. She's
dead to go. Like you can leave now, stabby man. Honestly, so I don't know. I honestly feel that this one is better in a lot of ways, but I feel like it's better because it's taking stuff that I like from other slasher films. So it's not, I don't feel like it's good in its own right. It's still a well-made movie, and in this universe, a lot of it makes sense. And honestly, they're executing hard things that honestly could be hard for a lot of other people. So it does take technique and skill to do this. Like, I got to give him credit where it's due. With that said, I'm just going to give it another B. Just throwing a B on the board. Just throwing a B on there. B for bullshit. Just because I did like this a lot better. Honestly, I did like a lot of our characters that we follow here. I liked Sadie Sink as Ziggy.
Another Stranger Things girl. She's already hip to the whole supernatural stuff.
And honestly, I think she's a lot better here than she is in Stranger Things. I really like the old girl as her sister, Emily Rudd, which I'm wondering now, seeing that, is she in a relationship to Paul Rudd? But I don't know. But Emily Rudd, like, I like her. Like, honestly, I like her character story arc in here. I feel like she if this was a pure slasher franchise on just based off this movie alone, she would be our Laurie Strode, and I would really like to see her evolution between further films. It would be another homage to like old school slashers, but I like that. I honestly think the slasher genre is one of my favorite genres next to like found footage films. So I'm like, yeah, it'd be a guilty pleasure or something, you know what I mean? So I really like her performance in here, and I really like her progression. And yeah, Tommy Slater as the killer, as the baghead killer, worked. like a lot of the stuff in here works, but it works because it's Friday the 13th. Like I can't get it out of my mind when I praise this movie that it's good, but it's good because other good things came before it, you know.
That's the kicker.
It just I can't help it. I can't help it.
I mean, my thing is like if they try to do something a little bit different, it's just to me it felt like the same old with a little minor differences, which wasn't enough. But continue on.
I mean, probably like, but then I think to myself, and it's kind of like what Ish said. Like a lot of this is lore, a lot of this is connected. So could they have strayed? Because I think they wrote themselves in a box when they wrote the first movie. Like almost like it had to come out this way. You know what I mean? Once you teased my man in the flak jacket, that is definitely like a sort of like putting him in a Paul Bunyan outfit, you know, making him our Jason. You almost foretold that you were going to make a Friday the 13th film. You know what I mean? And yeah, you could have throughout something different, but then but they did. It's just not different enough. Like Sam said, it's not different enough. Like with the stuff like you said, with the cave and the lore tying back to the first film. And there are things in here that I think about differently in the third, when you get to the third film, which we'll get to in the next episode. So that's why it stays in a B in my mind, because it honestly, these movies, you literally have to watch them together. Netflix knew what they were doing. You literally have to watch them together. If you were strong enough to, or you know, not have your friend force you to watch these films, then you probably would have stopped at the first one. But if you didn't and you watched the whole thing, you'd probably get a good experience. It's almost like getting a whole film or a whole series out of it. Hey, I'm gonna stop. I give it a B. There you go. Sam, you want to go next?
Oh man, like I said earlier, I enjoyed this movie better than the first one. The killer was doing it for me. He was cool. One note, obviously, seen it before, but like I said in the previous review, try to take myself out of it. Maybe this is for a new generation of kids that haven't seen these old movies, and they kind of the writers and directors, you know, and this is an old property anyway. They just, you know, just make it tropey, and just, you know, take all the good stuff from these classic horror movies. So I think they did it well. Like I said in the first one, the killing is great, cinematography is great, sound editing is great. That ending is hilarious. Yeah, it progressed the mystery for me. Introduced Gillian Jacobs, that's her name.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me wonder, like, what the hell's up with this chick? And I think I was watching this with Ish. I didn't like know who was C. Berman's character.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yo, that's Ziggy. And she's like, no, that's Ziggy. You're like, nah, that's Ziggy. She's C. Berman.
that was mad confusing. No, that was confusing to me when they said Ziggy. I was like, wait a minute, I thought she was supposed to be Jillian Jacob. Then when they had introduced Cindy, and I was like, oh, that's Jillian Jacob. No, oh, she's C. All right, writers, we need to talk. Like,
right. So that kept me at least alert, like trying to figure out who the fuck was who. But yeah, it did its job. Definitely for the kiddos who haven't seen a lot of horror movies. And yeah, I'll give it I guess I have to give it a B. It's better than a B minus. It's not for me. It's for the kiddos. And I'm just judging, like, I can judge it in a totally different way. Like, oh, fuck this movie, obviously, from my perspective. But from like a general audience view,
it's just dead. It's literally blue screen crashed.
Oh shit! Like,
as soon as his face hit, doo-doo.
Yeah, honestly, to be completely real with you, I should have gave the first movie a lower rating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually hated that movie, at least for the first half of it.
First 3 quarters.
Yeah,
it's okay.
It was really, it was really unbearable. But yeah, I'm gonna give this a a B at the scale of for the audience is written for and made for.
All right, Ishmael.
That's very mature of you. I'm giving this movie a C, kinda.
Okay.
I think I gave the last one a C minus. I'm gonna change that to a D plus.
I thought you gave the last one a D minus.
I give it a D minus.
I think so.
But
Yeah.
it stays as a D minus. This one's a C minus. Maybe a D plus. No, C minus. It was passable. It was all right. I was with it. I think that the thing that really made this movie so much better, which also kind of makes it suck, is that the first one came out.
Oh, jeez.
No, I'm serious. Building on the first one's story was great. Because then I was like, where is this shit show going? And I was like, you know what? This is actually kind of interesting. The cavern being connected, them finding the cavern and tying in these places and locations from the 80s into the 90s. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Actually, they put a good amount of thought into it, way more than I thought they did when I saw the first movie. That being said, I shouldn't have to watch the first 2 hours of this series in order to see this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because again, it was a good concept, and I think that they even strengthened it more for the next movie. Again, this is like one of the points where this is one of the uptick kind of points for the series as you go along. But it wasn't that great.
Okay.
Bunch of annoying people. Killer was cool visuals, good sound. The death scenes were pretty cool. The storyline made more sense than the 94 one, for sure. And I liked how they tied in the 94 one, even though I didn't like the movie. Because again, I still have to see these characters. I want it to make sense when I see them again. And it does for that second movie. The ending was funny. I think that they should have honestly ran with this more as a dark comedy instead of trying to make a fake horror movie, because it's not really a horror movie. If this is scary to you, you really need help.
Dark comedy would have been perfect.
Yeah, because that first one would have been funny if it was supposed to be funny.
I was laughing. I know you were laughing.
I was laughing. This is bad, but that was like, it was still funny. Like they could have made this into scary movie-ish kind of, you know what I mean? Something. Well, maybe not as.
Don't do a scary movie, but I get what you're saying.
Maybe not that much, but they could have done a dark comedy with this, and I would have been 100% okay with it, because it would have made more sense than the halfway scary. We're in this world of whatever the hell, Sunnyvale and so I say shitty side.
They would say shitty side. So.
I mean, they probably would.
Yeah.
Sunnyvale people probably would.
But here's my question for y'all, because and this is just before people, we about to get into what y'all thought. But before we do, I just have this last question. Speaking of scary, since you said this movie don't scare you, but if it scares you, what the hell's wrong with you?
Oh, I would like to say that actually, this movie was scarier than the first one.
Okay, well, what?
For sure. What? This one, I wasn't scared of it, but watching it and watching, I guess, like the formula of how somebody would be scared. You know what I mean? Seeing it and seeing like, oh, that's actually a great surprise. That's great. I liked this one better. I like the way they framed up the scary moments in this one better. Because in the other one, I wasn't feeling it. It's like somebody just being like, boo, versus somebody taking the time to know that whenever you exit the building, if they hide behind that tree and go boo, you're going to scream like a little child. You know what I mean? Like one of them is just like, you definitely saw them duck behind a corner, and the other one was like, all right, they knew.
So then, well, my question for you guys is that what is the last movie that actually scared you? Last horror movie that actually scared you? Ooh. For me, I can go ahead and say like the last modern movie that scared me, like truly had me kind of like afraid. The Babadook actually scared me. Yeah,
I did not.
Mostly because the Babadook itself, I don't know if it was the way it moved or whatever, but I would actually see when I was laying down, I see the Babadook, I see this long finger crawl up out the corner. I was like, oh hell no.
Trae, that lore was so strong and unique and effective, because I agree. That's one of the movies that scared me in recent years as well.
I gotta watch that movie.
Babadook, the witch, whatever, creeped me out.
Okay.
Even that Hereditary a little bit.
Yeah, Hereditary was. Oh God, no. Yeah. Oh no. Let me change my answer. I wouldn't say scary, but it was like that the scene that we all know, people, if you've seen Hereditary, you know the scene that killed me. Like that physically killed me, honestly. If you haven't seen Hereditary, if you haven't seen Hereditary, watch that movie, because that movie might not be scary. It is well made. It is an excellent film. It is mad disturbing.
And there's one movie that I've watched in the past maybe 5 to 8 years that's always sticks with me. Whenever someone brings up horror movies, I always think of this one movie that Trae recommended. It is called Dread, and it makes me. You had to, yeah. It makes me. That should pretty much scar me. It is like not in a crazy way, but I'm like, yo, this movie. Something about this one.
Well, now I'm trying to think of who recommended that to me, because I know that wasn't a Trae original. I need to think of who I need to get credit where it came from. Because no, I no, that movie. Yeah, that movie is disturbing and unnerving. Yeah. Like it just imagining if this is what people can do to each other, but not in the way that like Saw and Hostel do it with like the overdone violence. It's just really like that psychological messed up.
It's so psychological, yeah. And it's
is it Dread with the EAD?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I just love how he doesn't have to, settle for violence and slashing and blood and gore. It's really. It just leaves you disturbed and feeling weird and ill afterwards. You're just like, I gotta take a shower after this.
Like watching a really disturbing episode of Unsolved Mysteries, almost. Ish, you got one? To my little tangent question.
I think that the last movie that made me scared was maybe The Conjuring.
Really?
I don't like puppets. I didn't like puppets at the time.
Okay.
And like that little puppet was freaky. I don't like puppets walking around and shit. That's not cool. No, I'm saying when I was a kid, that Goosebumps was slapping.
I was about to say,
fucked me up.
He was like, Fear Street, whatever.
You didn't get me this time.
But slapping.
You did get me. That was not cool. I think when I was a kid, I saw Chucky too when I was not supposed to. So puppets and me, we weren't cool for a very long time.
Chucky got the same problem with me though that Freddy do.
It's funny now.
Yeah, Chucky just too hilarious. Like even from the beginning, like the dude's voice is just hilarious to me.
Oh, and Paranormal Activity. I don't know which one came out later, but Paranormal Activity did get me. The first one, for sure.
That was a good one.
Just because I had never seen anything like, I hadn't seen Blair Witch Project or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I think that might have been either the second or third found footage film I've seen.
That was the one that made found footage popular again. Like that one actually made found footage be affordable and profitable.
Yeah.
Like I
guess Get Out was kind of scary too. Like
for black people, yes.
Yeah.
It kind of gave that situation to where you're the only one at a Hall & Oates concert, and it's like, no, this is.
I'm not going to Hall & Oates.
Well, see, that's because you are smart. Some of us have diverse tastes. All right, so you know what we thought? Let's hear what the people thought. Seeing how this is Netflix, once again, we do not have a box office and budget that they will tell us. So we're going to look at the tomato meter once again with a tomato meter of 89% and an audience score of 82%.
Yeah, makes sense.
This is surprising to me, man.
If the first movie, right? I think it's garbage, right? But the second movie is not really garbage.
Yeah,
it's all right. And the strength of that movie's story is from like the foundation in the first one. Mm-hmm. The first one is almost like a throwaway, like I'm trying to think, like a sacrifice bunt or something. Like it's just there to move the story along. It feels like the second one felt strong. If you would have had this as a movie by itself, I think it would have done well in theaters, legitimately.
Okay.
Besides the last killing scene and probably the That's So Raven scene. But everything else though, it was because I was pretty much into it. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty much into it. The only reason I was making fun of it was because of the fact that I saw the first freaking movie.
Okay. Not my fault. But no, I honestly I can get a lot of what you're saying here. I think I find it. I think I can find it believable because of us looking at the scores for the last film. It does make sense that they would carry on over this one. I think, and I think the audience actually agrees that because their score rose between these two films. You know what I'm saying?
By a lot.
By a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that's tantamount to, like you said, like the strength of this story, the strength of this lore, and the fact that this movie is a solid movie. But once again, it's a solid movie because it's pretty much taking the skeleton of every other slasher film.
Listen, RLSTINE has made a living off of writing pretty good like children's and teen books that if you're in that age group you love.
Yeah.
And in this story, like Sam said earlier, in this story, this is all again for young adults, teenagers. And he does a good job of bringing that. Once I learned RLSTINE was behind this whole thing, I was like, now it kind of makes more sense. How not scary, but I guess kind of, it did feel like a super long episode of Goosebumps. You know what I mean? I think this would have worked way better as a series. Like,
that's what I say about a lot of films nowadays.
Should definitely make this a series because a lot of these twists and turns were not made for just the rushed.
I'm surprised they don't do something like this with Fear Street. You know, like they do with American Horror Story and now American Horror Stories that they have now.
That could have been
And I definitely will say that this does read a lot like RLSTINE. Like I think that's one of the positives I can say about these movies, that they do feel truer. They feel truer to RLSTINE than the actual Goosebumps adaptation movies that came out. Yeah. The two other Goosebumps movies. Like this actually feels better to his like the source
Those
material.
were actual kids movies though.
Yes, and they were actually bad. Like they were pretty bad. But all right, people, that's what you hear. That's what the people thought. That's what we thought. So again, tell us your thoughts down in the comments below. Let your voice be heard. We are out. Peace.
Bad things always happen to shady siders.
You feel it, don't you? There's something holding us down.
Cursing us. Run!
One way or another, you're gonna die tonight.
Thank you for listening to another Movie Club podcast, Production 1200's premier podcast. If you have suggestions for movies you want us to see, leave them in the comments below. Check out the short films we have on the page and look forward to what we're making next. If you want more from us or other ways to reach us, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all Production 1200. If you're listening to us on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating review. Trust me, it's what your grandma would have wanted. And if you listen to us on other podcast platforms, do the same if you're able to do those things. It's Trae Price signing off. Hear you next time.